Welcome back to the channel, guys. This is your guide to spending an entire day at the Santa Cruz Channel Island. Now, this video is going to be a little bit longer. I'm going to give you a little bit more detail than I normally do with my trail guides and things like that. And I'm going to break this video up into three main sections. The first is a high-level overview. We'll then dive a little bit deeper into Santa Cruz Island, and then we'll talk about my personal experience. I'll play the video and I'll tell you from start to finish key highlights. We'll end with the B-roll so you can get an experience of what the island looks like. And drop any questions down below. Happy to answer them. With that, let's jump in. Off the bat, what you need to know is that there are 8 channel islands. They're really split among northern and southern channel islands, and not all of them are part of the national park. So on the northern side, closer to the mainland, you have San Miguel, Santa Rosa, Santa Cruz, which is the largest and most visited, and Anacapa Island. On the south side, you have San Nicolas Island, Santa Barbara Island, San Clemente Island, and San Catalina Island. Now, San Clemente and San Nicolas are owned by the US Navy, and Santa Catalina Island is privately owned. There's a town there, Avalon. It's a cool day trip, but it's not part of the national park system. Of those 8, 5 are part of the national park system, and that includes Anacapa, Santa Cruz, Santa Rosa, San Miguel, and Santa Barbara. Santa Cruz is by far the most popular. It's most accessible. Next up is Anacapa, great for day trips, known for its lighthouse and cliffs. Santa Rosa is a bit more remote, and there are fewer ferries that go out there. San Miguel, wild and remote, often very weather dependent. And Santa Barbara, small and very limited access. All right, you got your basic details down. Let's jump into Santa Cruz specifically. Now, why is this island the most accessible? Most frequent ferry service from Island Packers to Scorpion Anchorage, which you'll see. It's shorter and a smoother ride compared to San Miguel and Santa Rosa. Ideal for day trips and even some overnight camping. Now, this place does have facilities. It has the best infrastructure of the islands in the national park with potable water, restrooms, there is a ranger station, there's campgrounds, and overall well-maintained trails and maps. For those reasons, Santa Cruz is the most popular, and why I recommend, if you've never gone before, that you start with this island and then make your way, if you want, to the other ones. Santa Cruz has everything from beaches to coves to high inland ridges and canyons. It has the most diverse landscapes of the Channel Islands, and it is home to the endemic island fox, which most visitors always see. I didn't see the fox. That covers Santa Cruz. I will now talk about my personal experience. I'm gonna start from the beginning to the end of the day. First thing you gotta know is you gotta bring everything with you, and you gotta pack it out as well, because there's really no trash cans on the island. So you have to make sure whatever you bring, you're bringing out. More importantly, if you're going any time that it can get even slightly warm, you need to bring enough water. Sure, there's some potable water on the island. I try not to drink that unless I'm like, it's an emergency. But again, there's not a lot on the island. So before you even start, I have to tell you, bring everything you need, right? You also need to bring some clothes to the ferry. We left at 8 o'clock. We have to be there 45 minutes prior to the check-in to basically check in and make a line for the ferry. It is cold. You're on the ferry, you're in the ocean, it's 8 o'clock. You have that layer on the coast that's still blocking the sun. It was a cold ride over. Even in the afternoon we came back, wasn't necessarily cold, but it was windy, and you needed something, a small windbreaker, just something to cover you up. If you don't have anything, make your way inside the ferry, and if it's already full in there, you're gonna have a bad time for about 80 minutes while you make your way over. There's some essentials that are sold on the ferry, some snacks, a little water bottle, but again, you never wanna be dependent on that. Pack in, pack out, be prepared, very prepared. This is not the kind of trip where you wanna run into an emergency. Oops, I did this or that. There's nothing out there, and we'll get a little bit more into those details. Wildlife from the boat, yeah, we saw a ton of dolphins. We saw a couple of whales. It was really nice, and that's part of the reason why on the way there, it's a little bit longer. It took about 80, 85 minutes, because you stop. If you see a whale, you make your way over, people are taking pictures. Really awesome experience, because it almost feels like you're visiting the Channel Island, but then you get to see some wildlife on the way. I think that's just adds to the overall experience. When you get there, if you're not snorkeling or doing water activities and you're not camping, you collect in a little group. They give you a little bit of an orientation, some words of encouragement, and then you get sent on your way. Now, the reason they do that, as I mentioned earlier, is you are relying on yourself and the people around you on the island. If you fall, if you get hurt, anything like that, you got nothing, right? You got people that'll call somebody, and then they'll send somebody out. 3 hours later, they pick you up on, I don't know, a helicopter, a boat, who the heck knows? This is not the kind of place where you want to take unnecessary risks. So obviously rangers and stuff are there to help, but again, it's not something where if you break your leg, they can rush you to a little hospital. You're gonna have to wait. Activities, day use, hiking, camping, you got sea cave kayaking, which we saw as we were hiking out by the cliffs, snorkeling in the kelp forest, and be prepared for weather changes. I mentioned this earlier, but I was on the island for portions of it. It was spotty, then it got super cloudy. I felt like it was gonna rain, and then it got super warm and sunny. Like a ton of experiences of the weather changing all in one day on the island. Just be prepared. Again, bring those extra layers. Hopefully nothing that weighs too much, but have something that you can put on in case the weather does change. Now, I made trail guides for Scorpion Canyon Loop and Cavern Point Loop. I would suggest if you're a bit more of an adventurer, you actually connect those two and you make one longer trail. And I'll put that up here. Stay tuned for those 2 individual trail guides. I'll talk a little bit about this as well. They're coming up in the next couple weeks, but really beautiful. And it's just not often that you can go somewhere and hike and get these panoramic like sea cliff views. It is gorgeous, and you should really, really take advantage of all the time that you have on the island. Now, as you get there and you spend some time, right, especially in the trail guides that cover, you know, the ticks, there are ticks here, they're wild animals. Bring your bug spray, I got bit by something. Bring your sunblock and be on the lookout for those foxes. Again, I'm disappointed. I'm gonna have to go back. I kept an eye out. It wasn't like I wasn't looking for the foxes, but there are fox boxes here as well if you plan on camping or even day use. Apparently, and part of the orientation that I mentioned, they'll take risks to get some food. So you want to make sure between them and the crows that you are well prepared and you make use of those fox boxes if you need them. I'll end the details here. On the way back, again, you just kind of wait, you get in line. It's a much more calm trip back because you're not stopping to see wildlife and stuff. It was just kind of, and I think a lot of us were sleeping on the boat, to be honest. That is always, I recommend if you have any questions, you call Island Packers. They are the only ferry system that'll take you out here, out and back. And there's also a visitor center with a phone number that you can call if you want to learn anything about the Channel Islands or have any overall questions. The Rangers are always one of my key resources when I'm planning and making these type of videos. So I want to encourage you to reach out as well. What you'll see next is photos and videos of my experience here at Santa Cruz Island. Hope you enjoy, and I'll see you next week.